Hey guys, welcome to episode whichever it is of 4PlayerAnimecast. It is 104, I believe, and it is the 20th of October. Just over a week left until Halloween comes. Does everybody have their costumes and candy ready? Uh, but as for anime, we are again in all our episode twos and threes of the season, right?
I think so.
Coming up, some have not been released yet, and we'll talk about that down the road. But at least for me, it's turning out to be a pretty solid series so far. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Anyways, I am Spire as usual, your host, and with me are two of my compatriots. One is missing, Toast. He is somewhere in a ditch, I believe. Who knows?
One can only hope.
What can only hope. And the other two are Dark,
Hi.
the person that is present, unlike Toast, and Nier,
Hello.
a second person who is also present, unlike Toast. So, what have you guys been up to? Dark, let's start with you. Past 2 weeks.
She haven't been watching Index.
Have been watching Index.
Have not been watching that.
That's a status of a smart Index viewer. I'm gonna be honest. Let's be honest. Like everybody that has actually gone through a good part of Index and not been like, yeah, I think this is a little bit much for an anime. Like they know what's coming in season 3. I don't know. I just don't think it's gonna be up to par. I just don't feel like it's gonna be up to par.
You mean to tell
scary.
me that me, who I might be actually part of the majority when I was originally watching, so I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then season 2, I was like, this is pretty cool, but it's getting a little shaky.
Yeah.
And then I started learning about New Testament and like the lead up to New Testament and World
Yeah.
War III, and I was like, yeah, this ain't too great.
This doesn't look like it's gonna turn into an anime.
I might not be in the minority there.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, anything else that you did or did not watch?
watching JoJo still, of course, because
Okay.
great. Looks pretty nice. I don't know. I thought the second and third episode looked pretty good.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Any new things that you've been watching recently?
Well, I mean, to discuss today, I watched Zombieland Saga, which was
Okay.
we could not have been more wrong about that.
Oh yeah, for
Honestly,
sure.
like
I'll
if anyone was
completely
to go,
confess. We no no no
anyone
no.
was to go back and clip that like when we saw the PV, I was like, dude, this is gonna be zombie infection
To be
bullshit
fair,
again.
I don't think anybody else did, right? Like, until the radio show or were there Nico Nico lives before the anime came out? There were, right?
I assume there must have been something. Like I don't think that
Until
me and
somebody,
Omaru pictures came out.
yeah. The thing is, it's like until they saw that, I don't think anybody expected this to be anything other than a survival game, right?
Yeah, I mean the description was a survival game. The PV was survival.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, like all the media surrounding was that. Even the way they show the characters for like the cover art, like even the one that we're using tonight, it's like it shows the 6 characters and the dog, and it's like in their own headshots,
right,
and they're
exactly.
also very much alive. So
Yeah, and they're also kind of they're not in idle things or anything, is that right?
yeah, I thought exactly what Cecian was saying. I thought it was going to be like that. That's why the PV was confusing because we saw Mino Mamoru's character and what the fuck, like what is this? And then I
What's
was like,
happening?
maybe he's like a crazy guy, who's like keeping
No, I
people
mean he can also
captive.
do protagonist because he's done protagonist roles before. It's not like he hasn't. It's just that.
Well, yeah, but I
Yeah.
assumed the girls were gonna be because of the description. But I
Oh yeah,
thought that I thought he was gonna be essentially the antagonist,
yeah. Oh no,
where he was gonna
that's
be
correct.
like,
That's
oh, I'm
yeah,
killing
exactly.
people
I can see
essentially.
that. Yeah,
But,
very much.
but yeah, I checked that out. Been thinking of trying to play spooky games for the spooky season. Hasn't been happening. Other than that, been keeping up with pretty much every show we covered so far.
All right, that's
Uzumade continues to be great.
yeah, definitely. So that's that. And as for Nier, what have you been up to these past 2 weeks?
Playing Shadowverse.
On that master grind, on the Grand Prix grind.
Yeah. That's about it, honestly. I'm still trying to beat Spider-Man
Okay.
because I kind of forgot about that game for a bit. It's pretty good.
And there's
They
a
added
certain franchise game that came out just very recently that you've been sort of been wanting to get a little bit more into. I'm assuming, right?
yeah. You're talking about Soul Calibur, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't too sure where you're going there, but yeah. Soul Calibur 6 came out.
Mhm.
You know, this month's the month of big games. Got Soul
Yeah.
Calibur. You got Red Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
You got Call of Duty came out too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Red Dead 2 doesn't have PC porting. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I've mostly just been playing video games. I haven't been watching too much anime.
Mhm.
I did not watch episode 3 of JoJo yet, but I've been rereading the manga,
Mhm.
the colorized version. So
Mhm.
I mean, I pretty much know what's happening.
Right.
Because
It's relatively short,
you can
right?
you can pretty much tell just by people's reactions of like what's in an
Right.
episode. So, but yeah, got the classic bread lighter. Best part of the manga right there. And other than that, I watched a whole episode of Zombieland Saga.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all. That's to be fair, an entire episode of that has a pretty decent value. It's not like you're watching one and you're like, okay. It has pretty decent value.
yeah, I mean it's not what I expected.
Yeah, I don't think I'm seriously saying this. Like, I will honestly bet like $100 right here that nobody like really expected this. Right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's certainly certainly an interesting marketing strategy they had with that, with very misleading PV, but it was all right. It was pretty interesting. It's
yeah,
not really my usual go-to, but hey, But other than
yeah.
that, I'm still watching old stuff, because you know me,
The
everything
old
was
man on the block.
everything was better in the early 2000s. But
It peaked. The anime peaked, dude. In what is it? What was it like 2011 or something like that? It peaked,
Dude,
dude.
Toast is gone. We don't know the eras
yeah,
anymore.
I don't
We don't
know.
have someone.
Sorry, I don't know the
Nier is like
post.
a legend anime person or something.
I don't know the postmodern, post uh, new age era we're in right now. So
Yeah.
sorry for
Right.
the lack of
Okay.
terminology there. But yeah, other than that, just the daily grind, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll definitely see what's again. We'll see what we cover soon, and I guess we'll start off with uh me, and again we'll just have 3 sections because Toast is not here. I watched 風が強く吹いている. So transliterated, it means the wind blows strongly. I believe the official localization name is Run with the Wind or Feel the Wind or whatever. It is a light novel original. I believe it is. I forget which studio is being done by. But it is sort of oh, it's Production IG, and it's a 2-season sort of a series. So it's 23 episodes apparently. But it is about dudes running. So it's a sports series, much in the line of recent stuff like Yuri on Ice, Free, etc., etc., etc. But with dudes running, right, doing essentially cross country stuff, and they're and a dude catches our protagonist, who is all grumpy and terse and tsundere and stuff like that, and grabs him, chucks him into an apartment because he's in debt or whatever, or he doesn't have money, and then along with everybody else, he just he sort of wrangles them up all into joining the university track and field team. Or again, I guess in Japan they don't really have like cross country teams, so they just chuck everybody into the track and field, right, or something like that. But he chucks them into the university track and field team, and with that he wants them all to run this multi-kilometer, like huge like marathon thing at the end of the year, right? Like at New Year's or something like that. And everybody there is obviously super unfit except for our main character, who is like he's super fit, he runs, blah blah blah, he does all of the things, but he's also, again, he's a tsundere, he's terse, so he doesn't really want to talk to anybody. And the rest of the plot is about getting the team together, getting them to actually run, just the usual like team building thing that people do in anime series, and then going through the whole ordeals of becoming an actual really good cross country. So that's sort of how it starts. Again, it's by Production IG, I believe. Audiovisuals wise, it's like it's pretty standard. It's nothing super like big or anything like that. There are a couple of scenes there where it's like they're showing like the running and stuff like that. That's like they put a little bit more money into it, but it's nothing really like, again, it's like nothing special. As for how the series itself goes, again, I'm pretty sure I've like mentioned my complaints with prior sports series. That is, and like of course compliments, which I've also talked about with Yuri on Ice, right? So what I said about Yuri on Ice was that I really enjoyed this, the aspect, how they put in the detail of competition, how they put in details of grinding out something for like a sporting event or a competitive event. And Yuri on Ice really showed those sorts of like pressures and stuff in episode 1. But then later on, it really sort of devolved into this like, oh man, feel the music, like here's this dude like fucking, you're like, it's so sensual, like boys doing ice skating stuff. It's like, and then it didn't really focus so much on the competition and the whole sports aspect of it anymore. And I was very sort of well, not very, but I was slightly let down by that. And I feel like this series has potential to be decent, but it has these like flashes of like showing the aspects of running, the aspects of training by ourselves, or running it out, because it's like, again, with running, like I personally really really love running, and I can't do it as much anymore because right now I'm in bulking phase of working out, but it's I do really really like to run a lot, but it shows these moments where it's like much more quiet, much more sort of lonely when you're just kind of running at it, but it's like a very good sort of quiet, and it shows these sorts of like aspects and stuff. But it just, beyond those small flashes, a lot of the other stuff is like, yeah, I'm gonna have to convince the other guys, and it's like the usual like you don't want to do it, but I'm gonna do this wacky thing to convince you. Or there's gonna be this like deep moment where the guy trying to convince the other people to join the track and field team is just like, don't you want to aim for higher? It's like standard crap. And, well, not crap, but it's like we've all seen this stuff before, and I really wish that this series would just add in more of the running, the sport, the training, like the actual sports part of the sports series. I don't just want to see like, oh man, high five, we're a team now, or it's like, I'll convince you to aim higher. I don't want to see that garbage anymore. Like, come on, like we get it, right? It's like we don't need this. So I think it has potential, but I really really hope that it focuses a lot more on the training and running and doing all the sports thing I want more sports series to be sports series and not just determination and training. Like I don't need more training arcs. So that's my like mini rant, but that's also a review and critique of what's been going on in Run with the Wind or Kazuga Tsugu Huiteru.
This looks extremely similar to Haikyuu. Do you think Production IG is kind of trying to, be like, hey,
Build on it.
Haikyuu's over, but
But you guys can have this. Yeah.
we got this. It looks pretty much the same.
I think if they, the thing is, it's like Haikyuu also has like the other like personal interactions that they're building upon, right? But this one, I mean, it kind of does, but I feel like again, like at this point in, because it's like Haikyuu was done before, like Haikyuu sort of like anime and everything else sort of boomed before the whole like free and like you know um Yama what was it, Yowamushi Pedal, right? Yowamushi Pedal
Yeah.
and Yuri on Ice and everything else all just like came out like this. And I think at this point, if they are going to adapt it, or if they're going to adapt any sports series, they really need, like, people kind of need to look themselves in the mirror and really be like, do we just want to make more of the same? You know what I mean? Especially since it's, at the end of the day, this is not Haikyuu, right? People are not going to be like, fucking, I, Haikyuu is over. Like, as you said, it's like, it might be Production ID trying to convince people that they should watch this if they like Haikyuu. But people are, gonna like Haikyuu for Haikyuu, right? So I feel like sports series need to start having like an appeal, an individual appeal, and this individual appeal should come from them talking about sports. It might be an interesting idea to talk about the theme, right?
Sports.
Sports in a sports series. What the
Sports
fuck?
are fucking gross, dude. Who would want to do sports? Like,
Yeah, moving around. What the fuck, man?
fucking weird.
I just wish they'd do more sports stuff. It's like I don't like I don't want them to just talk about sports like, oh man, well, we can't run this, or we gotta work harder or whatever. I don't want to just be like see them run for like half a second and then they're just like splayed out like on the hill, just like super tired, like, oh man, we're so tired. Like I wanna see more introspective while running or something. Just anything sports.
Inspire animating the human body. Very hard, right?
It's impossible. That's like one. It's like one like gate, like two steps is like one precise anime eye. It's like $10 million to animate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's more or less all I have for Kazuga Tsuyoku Fuiteru. I'm going to keep watching it, but I really, really do hope again. I don't mind. I don't mind like watching sports series like this, especially compared to I think other people here in podcasts. But again, I can't. I'm not really satisfied with just, oh man, gotta work harder. Like that's not really sports to me. Really, that's a really smack of a sports series. So, but yeah, that's all I have for Kazuga Tsuyoku Fuiteru. If you are like, a person that runs or wants to look at one of the sports series this season, you might want to check it out, but don't like hold super great hopes for it. So that's that. And next on the list, we are going to go on to Dark. Do you want to introduce the series?
Yeah, I watched the Zombieland Saga.
Yes, and I believe it is like this. It's like done by Mappa, but the sponsors are like Avex, and Cygames or something like that. Something.
Yeah, Cygames is definitely one of the sponsors. I'm not sure about Avex, but yeah, I know for a fact it's also done by Mappa.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but it's in collaboration with Avex Pictures and animated by Studio Mappa. So there's a lot of money in this. Like there's a decent amount of money.
And that was like the initial like kind of confusion for me too. Is I was like, fuck, does Cygames have anything to do with it? Like, because if you go back and you watch the PV for this series, you're like, well, it's a survival series, and it's like, yeah, Like, I guess there are survival series that have heroine characters, but kind of weird if it was like zombie survival with heroines. That is like a weird survival game like that. I don't know. I just thought that that was kind of strange.
Hmm.
But as it turns out, that's not what this series is at all.
Not at all.
No, as a matter of fact, if you don't want spoilers, well, actually, no. If you don't want spoilers, you've probably already seen it, with fucking memes on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
the
You
opening,
mean the one rap battle or whatever? Yeah.
well, there's the rap battle, but there's also the opening where Sakura gets hit by a truck, like
Hmm.
right in the very beginning. It's like that's been turned into a meme.
Hmm.
So at this point, I feel like there's not many people who don't know what the series is anymore.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. It's been spread out pretty hard.
yeah, like people should know by now if it was even, if they follow any sort of anime social
Yeah.
media thing. So basically, the series is a somewhat well, it's a somewhat standard idol series setup wise. You have seven heroines all in the same idol group.
Hmm.
Um,
and it takes a while, but they're all zombies, right? I believe.
yeah, it doesn't take a while. They're all dead.
Oh yeah, they're all it
Uh,
introduces it pretty quickly.
yeah, so basically, episode one starts off. Main character gets hit by a truck, dies.
Hmm.
Then she wakes up in a abandoned building, and then like runs for her life because zombies are chasing her, which are the other girls because
Hmm.
they're all acting like zombies. And then she meets a police officer, shoots her, and then Mino Mamoru's character like knocks him
Miyano,
out and then brings her back.
it's not even named anymore. It's just Miyano Mamoru's character, which is
Yeah,
which is appropriate, but it's so funny.
yeah. Like I don't even remember what his name is. He's like a mysterious producer, but it's
Yeah.
basically just Mino Mamoru, with a different name.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then he just tells her, apparently, like he essentially just explains to her what's going on. That like he brought them back from the dead to save uh, the Saga Prefecture,
Mhm.
um, as idols to be,
Right.
what are those called? Like something idols, where they're based around like a prefecture or something for promotional purposes.
The subs I used said regional idols.
Yeah,
Yeah,
original
regional
idol.
idol. Yeah, so that's essentially the setup, and then it kind of just goes from there. The first episode,
Yeah.
none of the other characters are even awake yet.
It's like the standard, like the general idea is like the standard, like if you've seen these sorts of like, uh, I want to say not like meme idol, but like these smaller like idol, like random idol series before. Not like one of those like magical girl idols, but like actual just like local doll or something like that from like a couple of years back, stuff like that. The series backbone is essentially just they're starting out with smaller events and then they become bigger and bigger and then along the way they have all these like random personal issues and stuff like that. So that's sort of the
Yeah,
backbone. Yeah.
yeah, and the way it's sort of set up is that each character obviously has its different quirks because they're a quote unquote legend for a different reason,
Yeah, so
save
each of
for the main
them are like
character.
actual, like apparently like legends. So that's like one of them is like was a legendary idol. Implied, obviously, she died in some sort of accident, right? Become a
Yeah,
zombie. Another one was like a courtesan, from like way back when. Another one
yeah, I
was
think
like an
the Edo.
infamous like yeah, Edo period. Um, and then another one was like a biker gang's boss or something like that. And it's like there's all these like quote unquote legends.
Yeah, and so yeah, you have a child actor. You actually have there are two idols. There was one. I think there was just one. I think from I forget what period he says, but then another one is from like when what's her name, Sakura, and I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure what they're leading to is that Sakura looked up to her group, her idol group, because I'm pretty sure you do actually see her group in the very beginning before Sakura dies. But
Mhm.
Sakura also has amnesia, so she doesn't really remember any before she was a zombie.
Mhm.
I'll get more into that in like a minute. But basically, like the episode seemed to. You said they're building up slowly to like an actual event or something,
Mhm.
and during all of that, like drama, like slight drama, comedy arises based around those sort of like legendary character traits.
Right, right, right.
Um, like the biker gang leader, she doesn't really want to just blindly follow anyone, especially if they're not like they don't seem to have like any backbone.
Right.
So she doesn't want to just become an idol. She wants to like take over. Um, what is it? The other two idols aren't even like they don't think that any of this is even going to work
Right, right, right.
initially.
It's actually
So
pretty interesting that one of the interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty interesting thing that they've done. I don't know how much like necessarily way more complexity it'll give the series or anything like that. But the interesting contrast that they did is Prince. I'll get to that in a bit. But uh, is that the people who are most against this, right? Most against the idea of becoming the idols are the ones that are like most closely associated with idols, right? It's like the two people that were like the actual idols are the ones most against it.
yeah, because they just purely don't believe that it's gonna work
Yeah,
out
they're
that
like, what
there's
the fuck is this
zombies in
shit?
the idol. Yeah, they're like, how are a bunch of fucking zombies in the idol?
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty much like the source of drama, but it's also the source of comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
It,
there's not a
it,
ton of zombie like trivia because me and Omamaru's character just kind of says, "Yeah, you were dead, and now you're a zombie." Like one of the characters asks, like, "Well, I was dead, right? So how am I walking around?" And he's like, "Well, you're obviously walking around. You're a zombie, fucking idiot." Like, well, doesn't really explain a whole lot, but okay.
yeah, exactly.
So there's probably going to be no explanation of that other than the fact that Mino Mamoru's, I guess, a necromancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so where the comedy sort of comes in is that there's a lot of slapstick as to be expected.
A lot of slapstick, a lot of dialogue, like back and forth kind of comedy, right? Tsukomi boke, manzai style, right? Like stupid things happening, and then somebody like the main girl like Tsukomi's it and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and a lot of it does center around the idea of being a zombie. Someone will
Yeah,
say like, "Man, that we like we almost got shot, like we almost died." And
yeah,
someone's like, "You were already zombie."
yeah, and the pace is also made to be pretty like snappy. Like it's a pretty brisk pace, and that helps a lot with the humor.
Yeah, a lot does happen. A single episode, that's for sure. Because as of right now, it seems to have like the build up to an event of
Hmm.
some sort, and then the event kind of falls through, but then they bring it back in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Um, but all the meanwhile, there's a lot of like slapstick, like I said, just
Yeah,
involving the fact that they're zombies, whether they shot, whether they like have their arms torn off or their eyeballs fall out, something like
yeah, yeah. It's I'm just yeah, again, it's like I don't know. I personally feel like for me, obviously I haven't watched everything else yet, but so far, like Zombieland Saga is probably the best like series for me this season. Again, I haven't watched the other stuff yet. I do need to, but so far it's like really good. I don't know. It's like I mean it's like there's like the standard idol stuff, and that's like it adds a foundation, but obviously it doesn't add that much value to it. But then what really kicks it into high gear for me is the whole first like obviously like them bringing in like the different genres and stuff like that, right? Like the genres that aren't necessarily seen as well in as much in standard Japanese media. That's like hip hop and stuff like that. Fuck you, says the other chat's like Spire gets baited by idols. Fuck off, man.
that.
But but fuck off. But the idea is, for instance, in episode 2, there's this like rap battle that's going on, and it starts off very sort of like off the hook and or off just like offhand, just like there suddenly beatbox comes in, and then what is the what's Japanese stringed instrument, like shamisen or something like that, or whatever it is, right?
Sure, dude.
The fucking, it's not is it koto or something like that?
You would
Shamisen,
probably
no,
be like the only person.
I think it's no, it's a shamisen. It's a shamisen, right? Yeah, shamisen. So the small like mini banjo like thing that Japanese that's like the Japanese like traditional instrument. Like that starts playing, and that's like in the background with the music, and that's like really cool in and of itself, because it's like usually you don't hear, you know, freestyling with Japanese traditional instruments in the background. But then the two voice actors or the idols, fully kind of get into it and actually do their lines through the quote unquote freestyling, right? Square banjo, but they actually go through with it and say their lines through the freestyling, and they make it up together, and that sort of like um the fact that the series is willing to kind of go do that, make that musical sort of leap forward, and be like, oh, we're presenting something new. It's cool in of itself, but that added on to the slapstick and the sort of rapid paced comedy that Dark and I talked about before. And just I that and I guess the third factor that really kind of nailed it for me is the fact that so far they've made the whole like um transition from comedic to serious and back and forth. So it's like they say something, Aki, come on, get on the stage, blah 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 blah, and then boom, suddenly next scene cut, and it's like suddenly it's very like sober scene, and they make these transitions pretty well, I feel like. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, like, if you didn't bring it up, I was gonna say there's a lot going on in the
Yeah.
series between everything that comes up, and I do think that it's all balanced pretty well.
I think,
Because if you let's say like you're not crazy over the idol stuff,
mhm.
but the slapstick is there, and I would say it's pretty strong. Like the dialogue, the comedy dialogue, and everything like that. The slice of life stuff is kind of there, and I would say that's pretty good. Um, the just the pairing of, well, not the pairing of the characters, but the group itself being made up of like this mishmash of just random people from
Yeah, the
random eras.
interactions work very well too. Yeah.
Yeah, the interactions and the sort of ways they almost like find common ground with each other is pretty good there too.
Hmm.
I think some of the dialogue is kind of nice. I'd have to know more about, I guess, the Edo period and different like dialect there,
Right.
but I imagine they're doing stuff with that with Yugiri.
Right.
But with the biker girl, the fact that she died at the quote unquote like the turn of the century,
Hmm.
and because of that, she keeps bringing up fucking Tamagotchis. I thought that was a pretty fun.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Um, yeah, but I think there's a lot in the series, and it balances it pretty damn well.
Yeah. I think
I mean, as a last one, if you like hearing me and Omamaru just yell a lot, this is a pretty good series for you.
right.
A lot of that.
I think
I do like that a lot.
I think just like two things. Going back to what Dark said about how the whole like the comedy and like the seriousness works. I think it's really this is really bound well, and it's again kind of again repeating myself, but I think there are two major reasons as to why it's bound pretty decently. One is that these two, like the comedy and the sort of like seriousness, is pretty well focused around one theme, which is why the hell are we zombie idols? Like why are we here as zombie idols? What the hell is going on? So that question is the theme that really rules both the comedy, right? It's like people are just running around as like random zombies half the time, but they're also idols? Question mark. and the seriousness. So it's like, we're zombies. How are we supposed to deal with this? So it's like the characters kind of act with it. And the second thing that really, integrates this well together, and I think honestly, I know he's one of like top paid actors in the industry, if not like the highest paid actor in this industry right now, right? It's like with his singing and acting work, it's like definitely at least in the millions or something like that.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's like,
also can't forget Tokyo Encounter has to rent out his house every
yeah,
single
exactly.
time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's like Miyano Maru, like he, like whatever he is getting paid for in this series, I don't think he's getting paid enough. Like I don't like he is so integral, and like this is not only perfect casting, like the character, like he embodies the character very very well. Just like all all like the energy and like the exuberance and like all, and then suddenly like collapses boom into the seriousness and just everything. But it's just like he and his character, like when I say he and his character, I mean like what he does with the character, and the character itself is what keeps this series like going. You know what I mean? Because it's like, especially in the first couple of episodes that we've seen, he does like half the talking. He has like half the line in the dialogue. He's doing like the monologue. He's doing the explanations, right? It's like he's like, hey, come on, hurry up, girls, blah blah blah, right? He's doing like he's doing at least a third of the lines, if not half the lines, in like all three episodes, and that's not just because they need to milk the money out of Mamoru. It's because it's because the dude is the one, gather all of the girls together, and he's the one that's kind of encouraging them, the one that's again explaining what's going on, the one that's saying, okay, well, collapsing into seriousness, right? So this is where the whole like, why I think Miyano Mamoru is helping with the comedy seriousness, integration, and he's the one that's saying to the girls, or he's the one creating the comedy in one cut, and then in the next cut, he's just like, what do you want to do? You can't stay here like this forever. You have to do some idle stuff, or you're gonna be nothing, right? And he balances this out really really well, or not even balanced, but like he switches between them like fucking like a switch, and this I think is like very very few voice actors can do, and he does it very very well. And I think without, again, not only the character itself that does all these lines and it intrudes in everything, right? Not only the character, but without Miyano Mamoru, like doing the character and keeping up the energy through the monologue, and again transitioning into seriousness in the next scene and doing all of that, I don't think this series would have worked. So fucking.
Uh, I think it could still work. I think the thing
I think there would be
is
very
it
few other
wouldn't.
voice actors would
Yeah,
be
I
able
was
to
gonna
really
say
keep
like I
that up.
can't really think of another person that would be able to do something like that.
There's, I think like it would be like out of like the big voice actors, I think it would be like Sugita, yeah, Tomokazu Sugita, and Tomokazu Seki, who I believe did so it's like well, I don't even know. It's like fuck, I don't even think. Yeah, I mean the issue is it's like all of the hyper characters, right? Like even like Steins Gate with like fucking Okabe and stuff like that, right? He, like Miyano Maru, still did that role. So it's like I think beyond, I want to say Tomokazu Sugita,
I mean, I
maybe
honestly can't.
maybe Shimonohiro if he really really worked up to it, right? But it would be quite a reach. It would be like when uh well, I can't even think of a good. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like
well, I
it's
mean,
hard. I don't
look,
like
the
who
point the
else could
point
really do it,
is
right? It's
the
like
point is that I would say in general, Miyano Mamoru, I'm never
yeah. The
I'm in a
problem.
weird place with Miyano Mamoru
The
because on
problem.
one
Wait,
hand,
can
I've
I answer
never
something? Can I,
yeah.
like so Yoshitsugu Matsuoka is the name that pops up to everybody's head right now when it's like, oh, we need some sort of like energetic character. And I agree that he could do like, he could keep the energy up, but he's not Yoshitsugu Yoshitsuka, I don't think is comedic enough in the way it's like surreal, does surreal comedy in the type of way that Miyano Mamoru can. You know what I mean? Like Miyano Mamoru can really fit himself into like an absurd role, like like a role that's like clearly just meant to be comedic, just like whack ass. I don't think. I think it's harder for Yoshitsugu Matsuoka to do that. Was my issue in not saying his name. So that was my thought. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's strange because I'm in a weird place personally with the way I view Miyano Mamoru, because a lot of the times I'm like, well, he does get these roles like that where he is switching between a more serious tone and like a complete absurd tone, back and forth. But there's never also been a time when I haven't enjoyed that and I didn't fit well, pulled it off like really well. But this especially, I feel like he's really putting in like a lot of effort. And I do think that even though like, yeah, I think the series could still be successful if it didn't have him. But I don't really think that there's another person that could make this character work. Like if they want to do the same character, I don't really think there would be someone who would pull off
Shine.
a character that I feel is genuinely like a part of the show, even though they're the producer character. Like I feel like a lot of producer characters in general, you don't really like they're there. They're either an insert or they're not as much of a character as the rest of the cast. And I feel like he is definitely as much of a character in the like at this point. Um Other than that, I'm trying to really think of what I would say for that. As a quick rundown of the show itself, I think its audio visuals are like pretty standard to okay. It's not that great. The CG for like the third episode is kind of weird. I'm not even really sure why they went with it. Like I know why they went with it, but I wasn't expecting CG. I'm not sure if they're going to continue that or not for like idle parts, or if that was just kind of like a one episode jab or gag sort of thing. But yeah, overall, I think the series is pretty good. Nier, I know you watched episode one. Haven't really said anything. So, is there anything that you wanted to throw out there?
Uh, Not really. I mean, this isn't really my kind of show, right? So I kind of just watched it, uh, because you guys were gonna talk about it. But I don't know. I like Miyano Mamoru's character, um, but I didn't really like care for any of the girls. The main girl is pretty boring, in my opinion. Um, I mean, the idea is novel, I guess, but I I don't know. It's just kind of it's not really my tempo. So I mean, the visuals are pretty nice. I mean, it's Mappa, right? And Mappa's always pretty
Yeah.
good. So
Some
it's
of
like,
them, I would say episode one has some really nice ones. Episode two has some really nice ones. Three has some kind of whack ones at certain. But I
yeah,
think that might have just been because they were like, we have to do this sort of mini live thing. So a solid chunk, like maybe it's like a 5 or 4 minute CG section. I feel like since that was kind of the focus of the episode, maybe they
gross. But
gimped down a bit. And
yeah, I don't know. I was kind of a sucker.
pretty decent scene.
I was kind of a sucker for the like the opening of the first episode where after she gets hit by the car, they do the like the
Oh,
polarizing
the hike.
colors.
Yeah, that was
I
really
liked
good.
that. That was a nice touch,
I
especially with
quite
the music.
I quite like the opening itself, as kind of wacky as it is. I like the song. I think some of the visuals are pretty nice too. you seen actual opening?
No, I don't watch it.
Ah, I'll
I'm
have to
not.
relink that later.
I'm not
It's,
really. I wasn't feeling the ED. I can say that much. It was kind of boring.
no, the ED is kind of boring. The opening is like kind of enter the mind of fucking madness. Like there's an entire section that turns into like Sentai, but they're in tracksuits. Uh, I don't know why, but it's a pretty neat opening. The song is good. Uh, don't know where Aspire went, but what I will say is another thing that is pretty neat with the series. I didn't get too much, but episode one, episode one is kind of weird because it doesn't. It was an all right episode for episode one, but it kind of just sets up the idea. Episode two, I would say, if anyone wanted to give it a shot, you definitely need to get through episode two, just because there aren't any other characters really in episode one. And once the characters get added, it does add a whole lot. But yeah, I think overall, it's probably one of my favorite shows this season. I think between that and Uzame, I think it's pretty nice. In
Well, I mean,
comparison
there are other
to
series too that just to check out, but yeah, it's like
yeah, no, there are definitely other to check out. I think I think this one is definitely a lot stronger than I expected it to be.
Mhm.
Like I didn't expect there to be another show that was going to have a more lighthearted like Halloween sort of
but
thing
still
to it other
solid
than the
punch.
vampire one. Well, yeah. I didn't expect there to be like sort of that other than the what's it called, Miss Vampire.
Right.
Like, and I do think that this series in a way does do sort of the for lack of a better phrasing, like they're more afraid of you than you are of them
Hmm.
sort of situation with monster type character. Um, but yeah, overall, really solid series. Mamoru is really good in it. He's putting quite a lot of effort. And the biggest mystery is who voices Yamada Tai.
They actually no, they
No
actually
one knows.
announced that. No, they announced that on 2 days ago, I believe.
Ah, really? They actually announced who voiced him?
Yeah,
What the
I
fuck?
actually have the fuck. I don't have the news article up on me right now, but they did announce it. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but
That's
yeah,
fucked.
yeah, that just
That's
ruins
pretty
it.
much all I really see.
Yeah, I think it's like definitely one of the top series here, but we'll or this season, but we'll have to see. Nier, did you have any last words?
Uh, I don't know. I think I gave my take. It's a nice show. It's a novel idea. But it's not my tempo. It's
Yeah, definitely.
not my jam. You know. I don't
Not
do I
not
don't
my
do that gay idol shit, dude.
fucking idols.
Idols, girls, what are you, gay?
Disgusting. But yeah, it's a cool idea. And it's certainly it was certainly an interesting twist with the way they pulled the marketing. But yeah, not my thing personally.
So, Zombieland Saga is Jesus fucking Christ. Um, Zombieland Saga is voiced by, or sorry, not voiced, the girl Tai Yamada or whatever, right? Tai Yamada.
Yeah, the legendary
So
Yamada Tai.
you know why they just left it at the legend. So she's voiced by Mitsuishi Kotono. Mitsuishi Kotono, if the name seems familiar to you, has most notably voiced Usagi Tsukino from Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Nice.
So yes, definitely, definitely a legend in some kind. But that was pretty. I like how they added it in the anime. That's pretty good. Like,
It's cute.
it's like because there's like a scene where it's like the main girl asks Miyano Mamoru's character. It's like, why is she a legend? It's like, because she just is. And now we know she's a legend. She's a fucking legend. But yeah, pretty good. Anyways, with that, we are off of Zombieland Saga and onto our final series that we're going to cover. Another, I want to say, even bigger name, not necessarily a bigger name, but made a bigger impact on the Western community than than Zombieland Saga did.
Yo, baby, here we go.
And we are going to cover it, but Toast probably going to cover it, but Toast died and he didn't tell us about it, so fuck him. So we are going to talk about none other than Nier. Do you want to lead this off?
Should I have an image for this? I didn't have an image for this.
Yeah, find an image for it, one that we can
Just
actually
have a blood
show.
splatter. Just have a blood splatter. Just have one of those Rorschach tests.
Hell yeah.
Put a fucking zoom in of like a Gobby from FF4.
Goblins.
No, just have the
Just
Shadow
put
vs.
Alex
Goblin.
Jones on the fucking screen.
Shadow vs. Goblin.
I got it. I'm good. Oh shit, that's big.
It's really big.
Back in the big
It's big, like a goblin.
wonder. Whoa. Oh my god. Is that art that looks better than anything in the show?
Oh my
Excuse
god.
me?
What the fuck?
Whoa. That
Yeah, by the way, if you didn't figure it out, we're talking about Goblin Slayer. Alright, I'm ready. I'm good to go. Leave me off, Spire.
Alright, so we are going to talk about Goblin Slayer. So this is, I forget who fucking did this fucking series, man?
What studio?
White
It's
Fox.
White Fox, the fucking
Um,
trash man themselves.
But yeah, Goblin Slayer, most well known for being a light novel. Don't think it was no, it was a web novel beforehand. Okay, so web novel became a light novel, then became later an anime, obviously.
A manga, don't forget the manga.
Yeah,
That's what everybody's read, dude.
yeah. Bible. ... So yeah, it went into web novel, light novel, manga, anime, which is pretty standard process these days, right? So, do you want to keep explaining? Just like give a very brief summary.
What do you think Goblin Slayer is about, Spire? I mean, come on. Like, really?
I think it's about the
It could be about anything,
socio-political climate.
right? It could be about the evolution of an isekai knight, right? Like, it could be anything.
Yes, it's
Wow.
absolutely about the main character, the Goblin Slayer.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely. Alright, well,
He doesn't even want to explain.
I don't. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Goblin Slayer. So,
Have you read Berserk?
stop. So, Goblin Slayer, believe it or not, it might shock you to hear this, but it's about slaying goblins. The main character is named the Goblin Slayer, and he slays goblins. He doesn't like
Oh,
goblins.
shit.
So he's dedicated his entire life to killing goblins because he doesn't like goblins. And
Yeah.
the story essentially starts off. So I'm gonna say I haven't watched episode 1 myself. I've seen clips.
You didn't even watch that episode 1?
I've seen enough.
That's the best episode.
I've
Nier.
seen enough clips to know like what everyone's talking about. I've seen enough clips to judge White Fox's adaptation of it. But I've read the manga. I've read a decent amount. I'm not up to date or anything, but
Goblin Slayer's OP.
I think I've read enough to pass judgment on the quality of the series. So the series starts off, gives this backstory on all these characters. This group of fleshling, or freshling.
Fleshling.
I don't know, but
It's like
fledgling.
one of those like
That's what I was thinking of.
it's like
Yeah.
one of those like pink blobs that appear in like
There's
Command
been
and
a
Conquer games.
fucking
And they,
skeleton this whole time.
These pink blobs, they turn into adventurers, and they're brand new adventurers, and they take on this quest to
That's
slay
isekai already.
it's Um, they took on this quest to slay a nest of goblins, and they're like, haha, this will be easy. And then they go into the goblin cave, and then they all die, and then one of them gets raped, and then um, the priest, the healer of the party, uh, essentially has to sit back and watch it all as her healing spells don't work because she's not a very good priest. And then the Goblin Slayer comes in and
Fucking
he
terrible.
he slays the goblins. And then she goes, "Who are you?" And he says, mildly autistically, "I am the Goblin Slayer. I slay goblins."
Oh, I love that.
Showing off the extra chromosomes there, right?
Yeah, he's a big brain fellow. So that's Goblin Slayer, pretty much. He goes around slaying goblins. He gets his little band of heroes, and he's a veritable guts, you know. But he only slays goblins, you know. Dragons, fuck that. You know,
Yeah.
people. This village is being attacked by this dragon. I'm not interested because I
Yeah,
only
that's
slay
why
goblins.
to call Dragon Slayer.
Are you gonna take this quest to save the world? No, I just
No,
goblin.
I don't know. Is it getting attacked by goblins?
I need to kill goblins. So, what do you want to tackle first? Because Goblin Slayer is a big subject. Do you want to tackle the controversy of Episode 1?
Mm,
Or do you want to
so
skip
okay,
that entirely? Is that a dead
I,
horse at this point?
uh,
I don't think
so
it's a dead horse because we should probably
I guess we
say
should.
something on how it shouldn't even be a fucking controversy in the first place, at least.
So okay, so I think this is the thing we want to do. We want to give a quick review of how Goblin Slayer's structure is laid out. You know, like its contents, right? The whole thing where it goes into from Raid Fest into the D&D trivia thing, right? We should take a quick gander at that, and afterwards, I think honestly the major value of the Goblin Slayer stuff is addressing what we kind of I don't know. It's like I think we should address this controversy, but in the way it's like, what should we expect in the future from a series? When they want to be, because it's like I don't know how to say this. It's like there's obviously value in series trying to be again creative, but it's like I think people are kind
Well,
of
this
losing.
also is not creative, so
Yeah,
interesting.
no. But what I'm saying is that people have kind of lost their way in thinking that if you just make like a Saw movie, but with like goblins, right, it's going to be more creative, right, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, honestly, the closest thing I could. Well, I mean, that flowchart Nier had, or whatever, not flowchart, that list that had another on it was a pretty good
yeah,
indicator.
I think we should address like what what we should what people are going to see in the future, I guess, related to this sorts of series, and how we as the community should evaluate it in a sense, right? It's like how we should deal with it when series like this come out. Because I think the major problem that the community is kind of reacting to it in a very sort of strange manner. I don't want to say necessarily a retarded manner, but it's a very strange manner.
It's pretty fucking dumb.
No,
say
it's
that.
it's A, very stupid, and B, I would say it goes further because it completely disregards.
Like
I mean, it disregards like these subject matters in
I
other
expected
fucking
the
media.
shock.
It's like just because it's in anime doesn't make it any more fucking abhorrent or like shocking than in anything else.
The thing
Or
is,
if it could be even used in.
yeah, we kind of should have maybe expected this when we saw Overlord. Like, you know how it's like when Ainz killed people, they were like, I can't believe Ainz
I
killed
mean, I
people.
fully expected this, but
But the thing is, it's like I
Should
expected just the shock value, but I didn't expect the other following stuff. Like the
Really?
extent.
I
But yeah,
totally did, dude.
yeah.
There's
Well,
so many. Well, because the shock value wasn't even part of. Like it always happens with this sort of shit, and it's also like shock value. I feel like for Overlord, like it was shock value, but it was also people were talking about it like it was this super fucked up thing that happened. It's like,
well,
well, the
I was
evil
talking. I
guy
was talking about
killed someone.
extension into like other like things like Hitler and stuff like that. But let's actually cover
Oh,
the
that
yeah.
I didn't even think of.
Yeah, but before we get into that, let's again. I think Nier also wants to do this, but let's cover the whole like structure of Goblin Slayer first, right? So again, Goblin Slayer, as I kind of glossed over a little bit, but it's essentially it starts with like the Raid Fest, and it's like, oh, goblins are bad, blah blah blah. They do all these bad things, and it puts in the shock value, so it kind of draws you in that way, I guess? Question mark. And then after that, it more or less turns into, I believe, a sort of standard like dungeon crawling D&D trivia. It's like the closest thing I can kind of
Extremely generic fantasy. Yes.
yeah, the closest thing I can think of, but one that's been actually done well is Dungeon Meshi, right? Or cooking in dungeon or whatever, right? It's kind of like that where it's like it goes through the dungeon and tells you like all the trivia about like the dungeon and the goblins and stuff like that, right? But it's not done as well, right?
I mean, is
Uh,
it done at all though? That's the real thing.
it is done. I haven't read that much of it, but it is done like bit to bit. But it's not
From my
like
understanding, it's
I mean,
yeah, it is done, but it's extremely basic.
Goblins
it's not like
Goblin
Shield
Slayer has like
stuff.
basic world building and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's got the generic, again, it's extremely generic D&D fantasy world, right?
Mhm.
The only thing Goblin Slayer really delves into is like, I guess the quote unquote culture of goblin tribes, how they behave and stuff like that. And then there's there's like one arc where it tries to get into like the politics of human cities, and then it like drops it like 5 chapters later because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess the writer was just like, I don't
It's
know
too
what the
complicated.
fuck I'm talking about here, so I'm just gonna
Too
drop
complicated.
this. Um, but yeah, I will say Goblin Slayer's world is extremely uninspired. Um, there's something to be said about fantasy series, I think, at this point. Um, like even outside of anime, where like there's no fantasy series really anymore that are like actually trying to build a world, right?
What do you mean by
They'll
that?
take they'll take the D&D fantasy structure and they'll be like,
Mhm.
I guess this is my fantasy world, right? They won't really,
I think they
or they'll
think
take
they're no. I think they think they're building a world, but they're not really doing a productive like they're not really adding any more value to the existing literature. Is I think what you want to say, right?
Well,
yeah, or they'll take like a D&D like basic D&D structure
Some high fantasy
and
isekai
then
world, right? Some high fantasy isekai world.
they'll be like, oh, but it's grim dark or some like
well, it's
gay
not even
shit.
really super high fantasy, is it? Because like for me, going off a little bit of what Nier said, and I guess like that definitely puts it in perspective for me because one of the early things that I said, like this is so like I hate when series do this and this is really boring, is
Mhm.
when when the priest girl's like, oh, but I'm using heal. I'm like, that's it? It's just called fucking heal? Like to me, the idea that your magic in your series is just literally named heal
Dice
or
rolling
named
D&D
cure.
spells.
Yeah, it's like that is a huge fucking tell of like, okay, so you're just not even like at least for magic, I already know off the bat, you're not even trying.
Yeah, it's. I think the author clearly kind of wants to stick to this like D&D trivia template and kind of focus less upon any of the outside world and more just about sort of day to day. You know, the Goblin Slayer and the priest kind of builds the cast around them, and then they go out, kill more goblins, and the goblins become more detailed as they go along. But it's like I don't know. I think it works. It appeals to a certain niche, and I think gives some value for the viewers of that niche. But as like a series in whole, I don't think that sort of I don't think that sort of series is like very stable in terms of like continuing to hold up value like in general. You know what I mean? Because it's
Well,
like it's not like Goblin Slayer himself really has like any like super big like evolutions in terms of like personality or anything like that, right? It's like
well, I mean, I can get into that too if you want. With the way I guess like characters are just dealt with in general in the series, because
Mhm.
uh, I'm not the biggest fan of the way that the protagonist himself uh, is. So, I've talked to Dark about this quite a bit, and I've talked to a lot of people actually in other servers about this, about just like the main character of Goblin Slayer and how he's not a character. Um, he's a walking suit of armor who swings his sword, and he's really only there to get the party out of danger. Um, the party will get into some sort of predicament. They'll be swarmed by a pack of goblins or something, and they'll be like, "Oh shit, we're fucking trash. We can't kill these goblins right now." And so the Goblin Slayer comes in, and he's like, "Oh, I'm edgy. I have a glowing eyeball in my helmet. I'm gonna kill these goblins. I'm gonna get covered in blood. I'm gonna say a cool one-liner, and then the other characters are gonna develop for me." And that's it. That's
Yeah,
all the Goblin Slayer is. He doesn't develop. He has extremely rare moments of actual human interaction.
he's
Really,
essentially like an NPC.
he pretty much is. He's a walking machine.
Yeah,
He doesn't really talk. He has like the occasional moment of comedic relief with the priestess. But like there's nothing relatable there unless like you relate to an emotionless uh, piece of armor that just kills endlessly, in which case I would suggest you seek help immediately. But
right.
the way that this series treats its protagonist is like everybody around him has to develop for him, because there's like the way the series is structured is just like there's no way for Goblin Slayer to really develop. Like,
Well, the idea is he like it's like he is the cage, and then everybody he is like the cage that keeps the goblins in, and everybody else is commenting about the goblins while while he cages the goblins. You know what I mean? It's like without him, they're not able to get close to the goblins, quote unquote, right? But it's like once they
yeah,
get close to the goblins, they start talking about it and filling up the rest of the story while he keeps the goblins contained.
I don't know. It's just the structure of Goblin Slayer is so weird to me, because it's like there's the party around Goblin Slayer, and they all have their own motives or whatever. But it's like you've partied with this man who names himself Goblin Slayer, and it's like all you're doing is fighting goblins, and then it's like at that point, what do you expect, right? Like,
Right.
how do you keep getting into these situations where you need the Goblin Slayer to help you kill goblins? Like, you're not expecting to encounter anything else at that point. You're literally following a man whose sole mission is to wipe out every goblin on the face of the earth. Like, how are you not like perfectly trained in killing goblins? And to be fair, like the elf archer girl, she's pretty good at handling herself for the most part. But like, she still gets into these situations where the goblin slayer needs to come in and be like, "Oh, I'm covered in blood. I'm gonna beat this goblin with a stick because for some reason I lost my sword
Yeah,
somehow to these
it's like
shitty goblins. Like,
it's like he's like half the time he's like MacGyvering like different things that he uses to kill goblins with. Like I'm gonna kill a goblin with this like paper tissue. Like
I'm gonna kill
He's just
these
like
goblins
training
with
in
my
maces, dude.
bare hands because this sword that I keep with me at all times has somehow been lost by you know this pack of goblins,
yeah,
this small creature that I've dedicated my entire life to fighting.
yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It's very weird. So Prince in chat brings up an interesting point, making comparison about Goblin Slayer One Punch Man, where it's like to me Goblin Slayer is like One Punch Man, where like Saitama, the story is less about him and more about how his existence affects the story around it. And two things that I would like to point out about that, not necessarily criticisms, but just like kind of differences, is that um uh, the issue is I kind of agree, but it's like with One Punch Man, it became like that, where it's like Saitama, like when he was initially created as like One Punch Man, and he's like, oh, I do One Punch and I kill stuff, and it's like that. It was very, very much more centrally around him and him as an after story type character, right? Like he is already the strongest man in the universe, and then it unfolds from there, and it's his sort of like introspection about like, all right, well, yeah, I'm the strongest. What happens now? It was sort of like that. And then as the cast expanded, the author shifted it to a story about how his existence sort of affects everybody else and does that. But even then, he could kind of jump back and forth between the after story and the society, interactions. With Goblin Slayer, it is pretty much like Goblin Slayer sometimes explains what's going on, but it is entirely dependent upon how the rest of the cast sort of has to interact around with them. There's no real after story or anything for Goblin Slayer, so that's sort of a difference. So One Punch Man eased into this sort of story, whereas Goblin Slayer is like it was set up to be this sort of story. So that's sort of how I feel about that. Um, but yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the structure of Goblin Slayer?
Well, in regards to the point to like Goblin Slayer being more focused on like the effects of I guess what Goblin Slayer himself is doing like
Mm-hmm.
on the environment around him. Um, he doesn't really like affect uh too much. I feel like
Well, he doesn't change people that much, except for again the priest girl at the beginning. But even then, it's not really like it's more like knowledge. Again, it's like again, as I said, the example is like he is the cage that is keeping goblins as an exhibit, and everybody else is kind of quote unquote learning, right? It's like there's this like speaker speaker at in front of the
yeah, but
cage.
like even outside of like the cast, like the band of characters, right? Like
Mhm.
you'd think um in an action oriented uh you know fantasy series, like your main character would be like shaping events in like just the world, right? Like
Mhm.
something that Goblin Slayer is doing is like pivotal to the world around him, right? Um, and the series doesn't really uh, do that very often. Like,
Yeah.
there's events where, like a city is being attacked by like this big horde of goblins, and then Goblin Slayer's like, oh, I kill goblins. And he saves the city, right? But like,
Uh,
there's no like, big giant goblin overlord that's like, I'm gonna kill everybody in the world and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop me and I'm gonna open this like
there's no end game in the
yeah, like
But that's what makes it.
there's no big
he
antagonist, right? Like there's no real, like you said, there's no
so
end
can,
goal. Like what's he
so
gonna
can I ask something? Let me be a little bit of a devil's advocate and say, what do you think the value of adding that end game is in the story?
I mean, there's a goal, right? There's a goal in sight, right? So Goblin Slayer's like Goblin Slayer's entire like purpose of like being who he is is to wipe out every goblin on the face of the earth.
Right.
And like, how is the series gonna achieve that?
Maybe it's not supposed to. Well, maybe it's like the author just gets tired of just
Yeah,
randomly
like
ends in the
what's he
middle of
gonna
fucking.
do? Like Goblin Slayer's just gonna be like, all right, I'm tired, I'm done.
I should retire. I should
I think
retire.
you're right. I think you're right early. Dragon's gonna come. It's gonna kill him.
I,
Like, oh
I
shit!
mean,
I
I
wasn't prepared
guess
for this.
what is
maybe
the
he'll just cause a great like goblin holocaust or something like that, and then like once the goblins are like cut in half in population in this world, he'll just like retire or some shit.
I don't know. Like, what's the end point? You know,
Yeah, no, no.
when does the Goblin Slayer be like, I'm done. My journey is over, right?
Gotta retire now.
He
Yeah,
When
can't.
all the goblins die.
He
even
can't.
though like,
He can't kill every goblin in the world. Like,
that's
they
what
You can
can't.
fucking try.
You
don't know that.
Like,
Just
what is
say-
he? What is he gonna do? Like, the manga's just gonna be like 25-year time skip, and he's in the last goblin cave on the world. Like,
He finally learned
it's like he
a
has
bit of magic.
no,
Can kill every goblin from one
yeah,
location.
he has to. It's like the last like batch of baby goblins are like in this nest, but it's guarded by like a rock or like another monster, and he's like, no, well, I can't kill this monster. Like I can only
Fuck.
kill goblins. Yeah.
So I
He
got
just
to
walks
go
away.
through a whole nother manga to learn how to kill an ogre.
yeah, I
just
mean,
walks
like
away.
the only end point I can see, the only way a series that's set up like this can end, in my eyes, is the Goblin Slayer dies. He gets killed by something, or they do a time skip and he's dying of old age, and he like passes the torch to somebody else, right? Um, that's the only. That's like the only ending I can see
Right,
that
right.
can be
Yeah.
like resolved in a way that people can be like, okay, that's a decent ending, right?
Mhm.
Other than that, uh, what are they gonna do? Like, my journey starts now, manga's over, you know?
Like, I killed the 333rd goblin. My journey starts now. Walks off into the sunset.
Yeah, like manga serialization over, but like in my opinion, a series that's action focused, like regardless of any setting, really, I think it needs that goal, right? That visible goal, whether it be an antagonist or a rival, like whatever. Um, as of like right now, uh, I mean, as of what I've read up to in the manga, there is no like foreseeable end goal. Uh, there's nothing to reach for. Like the idea of killing all the goblins, it's invisible. It's unreachable. Like no one man can do that. They
Yeah.
breed too much, right? So I don't know. Like a series just can't really sustain
to do, like,
itself in
No,
my eyes.
he has to get the rich. He has to use the priest as a ritual to like sacrifice ritual to kill all the goblins.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, they could do some dumb shit, but
Yeah.
They're gonna
what
have
Mir
to,
said,
right?
like, that's the only semi-satisfying passing the torch.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but so the structure aside, again, all have our, I think, relatively solid criticisms on what the series is like.
I was gonna say I don't know because I don't know where this would fall in, and I've read the first chapter of Goblin. I've watched the first episode of Goblin Slayer, but I think, and I don't know. I assume this would be answered, but my biggest confusion is if they want to, if even the writer wants to defend the idea that first chapter and first episode isn't entirely fucking shock value. How are there even novice adventurers that get bodied by goblins like? And how does the Goblin Slayer struggle with goblins if this is a D&D fan? Like, if he's so strong, like, he has to be fucking weak, right? Because, like, he's struggling to kill goblins. Regardless of how big the goblin, it's still a fucking goblin.
Right.
So that's my confusion with, I guess, like, sort of the setup.
It's for
of
the
it.
realism, my friend.
I guess realism when you're fighting goblins, casting.
I don't know. It's not a solid package to be sure. But transitioning from that a little bit quickly to the community response. Again, there has been a lot of weird community response where it's like there was the initial shock value, which is like similar to, as I said, when in Overlord, like Iron's the main protagonist, kills like a whole bunch of people. Goblin Slayer kills a whole bunch of things. They're like, oh man, this is so cruel, stuff like that, or whatever. And then some people are reacting to the murder, rape, in a general like medium sort of way, right? Where it's like, oh, I can't believe they put this in my anime, right? It's like, how can they put this
Yeah,
in
never
my
before has there ever been a rape in anime.
Yeah, this is just fucking trash shock value. Like, I hate it, stuff like that.
They're not wrong that it was trash shock. It's the unfortunate way they react. Kind of delegitimizes the fact that they have a pretty legitimate stance.
Nest of dog dogs. but then I think there was another tertiary reaction that fell out where it was like people were starting to extend this like idea, starting to read into it a little bit, and then trying to extend this goblins killing or goblins being killed by Goblin Slayer as this like analogy or like I guess a representation. Can't really say it's like an allegory because it's like a lot of people kind of made just references, or it's a reference, I guess, right? Reference to like genocide or something like that, or like what is it, like racial clashes or something like that. It was very weird.
Socio-political climates.
I really don't understand why people are making this like political race argument when
I think
they gotta be racist, right?
They gotta be.
If someone's
like,
gonna be like,
if you're saying,
Jewish people are just like these green, big-nosed freaks.
If you're saying any race is like this, these small, green, murderous, raping, goblins. If you're saying any race on the face of the planet is some sort of is being represented somehow by that, you're a massive fucking racist.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far. It would be the accusation. I want to say, so let me say this carefully. The accusation would be valid if the author showed relatively significant intent of mimicking either what's happening right now in the world and the political climates and social climates, or one of the trains of thought that racists thought about, right? What make America great again, or other populist people think, or other nationalist people think that is happening in the world with regards to other quote unquote inferior races, right? And if it follow that sort of like timeline of what if the Goblin Slayer story followed a timeline where it represented one of those biased lines of thought or what was going on in the world, then I think the accusation would have been valid. But it doesn't seem to be doing that, because the issue is after the whole like goblin rape scene, shock value stuff happened, it just kind of degenerated into, again, this like D&D trivia thing, right? Which isn't really racist, it's just stupid, right? It's just boring. So I think that sort of racist accusation does fall pretty hard by the roadside, just because it's just not well represented by anything else in the story, right? So
I was gonna say, not to get too far into sort of like, I don't want to say human nature, but the idea, like the sort of situation where this pops up with, where it's like people tend to overly project already racist stereotypes or racial stereotypes onto things that coincidentally seem to have those stereotypes. We could look at who is it? Game theories are the
are the Minecraft
are the
Jewish?
Minecraft standard villagers Jewish? And it's like, well, why are you even asking that question?
I
It's
think
like,
the
well,
issue. I think
because
the
they
issue.
got big noses and they sell shit. It's like, well, you can only assume that if you already are accepting a racial stereotype to begin with. So unless they're gonna have more parallels to actual like culture,
But the thing is, there needs to be there needs to be a decent amount of significant, like consistent evidence that there is racist intent behind portraying them under like this line of thought that's clearly racist. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like,
and as of right
and
now,
the thing is, and the big thing is also like, especially with regards to these like sort of like genocide, blah blah blah, like racist, killing goblins accusations. I think there needs to be. I don't want to say that it's like, oh, it's like I'm not racist, you're the racist. I don't want to necessarily. I think it's a little bit more difficult to get into that, but it's like what I do want to say is there needs to be a difference between seeing themes of um, gray morality and inferiority, like not necessarily class conflict or anything like that, but it's like, oh, if we treat other people as inferiors, right, like ethically, like, and maybe they're doing like all these bad things, right? They're criminals or whatever it is, right? How should we treat them? Should we just stomp them out? Like, how do we, if we were slapped, right? If we're struck on the cheek, do we and we turn to our other cheek and we're struck on that cheek too, right? What do we do? Do we have to take them out? What is going on? And there's this theme of retributive justice versus charity versus well, how do we treat someone that we think is inferior? Blah blah. Blah. There is that sort of thing to be studied in general, but we have to delineate between that and this idea that the author is necessarily and consistently portraying racism. You know what I mean? Like there's a
and
inferiority in racism.
yeah, and I think also what we already covered earlier, the fact that this series is just a standard fucking D&D world should
Yeah,
probably already say a lot.
yeah, that's the
Like
biggest part, I
unless
guess.
yeah, unless you're just considering the idea of a goblin in general being attributed to a race, then it doesn't matter. Like the intent and the idea of a goblin, it's like, what is it? It's a fucking little green dude
It's like
who's killing and raping people. Like what? Like what more? Like there's not much more there to it.
the issue
Fucking
is, it's like
goblin.
it's a standard cultural symbol, and I'm pretty sure at the time it was sort of popularized and formulated. It wasn't really meant to be linked to a sort of racial undertones. So if the author kind of generally just kind of uses goblins because it's high fantasy, right? He can't really help himself there, right? It's like at some
Are
point he has to
goblins
use some sort of monster, right?
are goblins widely attributed to a race? Like because I honestly, I
No, 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 no,
genuinely
no. I don't think so. I'm pretty
do
sure.
not think that that is the case.
No, 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 no. I don't think. I
I
don't
know
think.
there's certain shit like with some of the Star Wars creatures and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
you could draw some parallels and yeah, there's some stuff going on there. But I think in general, when you have something as standard as high fantasy and like mythos stuff,
Yeah.
then you're not gonna
The
get
thing
too
is,
far.
the thing
You
is, you
could
have
just
to
as
start.
easily say like a dragon
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
is a
it's
stereotype.
pretty
It's like,
hard. It's like
well,
you'd have to go into like the authors that really popularized those series and like introduce the genre and really kind of like think about their racial
well,
undertones.
even
But
even
it's
then though, I don't think that's very fair because it's like you have
Well,
you have a goblin.
it's
And then if someone didn't make that, like let's say a racist came up with the idea of a goblin,
right.
doesn't mean a goblin in general is racist because a goblin could just be a goblin. It's just a green fucking creature that kills people and is nasty. There's a lot of creatures that are green, and whether it be that are almost like a goblin, whether it be in mythos or whether media or whether you just change the color of its like skin or some basic feature. It's like you don't always need to read that far in.
Yeah, I mean, I, I would, I don't, I think whether a racist symbol can be used in a non-racist way if done consistently enough is definitely a discussion that can be done another time. But I think in this specific case, the strongest argument for this is simply that, again, the source material doesn't. There's really no correlation of any racist like undertones, and furthermore,
I mean,
the way they're used, there's no racist undertones. So.
there's no political undertones in general, right?
Yeah,
Like that's the initial idea, is that
yeah,
like it's some sort of like the idea of goblins being like an infestation is some
yeah.
sort of like political commentary on like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
immigration or something.
No, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're you're looking for something when it's not there. There's
Yeah, it's
like
very.
this is a series where the author tried to do like actual political storytelling
They gave up.
and he just fucking dropped it. Like he couldn't even hold it for like 10 chapters. He dropped it.
Yeah,
He's not going to make a series where he's like using this high fantasy backdrop as a real world political commentary. He's not that smart. He's not that good of a writer. Like
And it's also like, what is his intent for the series too? Whether he's smart, not that smart, or not that good of a writer. I think there's an argument to be made that like whether he's smart or not, or whether he's a good writer or not, I think he has the idea that this is a very minimal setting.
yeah,
This is a very minimal like protagonist. It's like, well, what are you getting?
It's a minimal setting. It's a minimal world. It's a minimal premise, right?
Yeah, it's like you're there to see goblins get fucking killed and to be shocked, and that's what you're like showing up for.
yeah, yeah. I think overall it's just not very good line of thought. But going over to the other sort of major line of thought, it's. Do you want? Uh, can we talk a little bit about again the commentaries or people's reaction to sort of how the gore and the violence, affects the anime they're watching and stuff like that.
Well, okay, so we're I assume we're including like sexual violence and violence
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't think like there really wasn't gore. Goblin gets cut in half. That's about it. It's not. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just something. Well, first of all, it's not. It's inevitable. Like people are just gonna try to do more and more whack shit, and we've seen this not even in this sorts of like Goblin series, but in stuff like a lot of survival game series. And every time survival game series come up, people are like, oh my god, do they live or die? Stuff like that, right? Um, and every time that comes up, people are just clapping like fucking otters or seals rather. Um, and it's just an extension of that. More whack stuff happens to force people to react to it, to give a fighter or to make characters react to it, give a fight or flight sort of reaction, right? So, I first, as I said, first of all, it's inevitable. Second of all, I think it's silly that they're doing this. I think the strongest criticism is that the most solid criticism, rather, that can be made against it is that it's bad because they're using this as a sort of like, easy like boom hook to get in, right? It's like one of those like knee jerk like, oh, someone died, so we gotta cry sort of thing, right? In a story, it's sort of they're using that sort of like as bait to get people in or to get people to talk about it or whatever, just to get eyeballs. Um, uh, he is so. I just. I don't know. I think people are getting offended about it, but for like slightly weird reasons. Where it's like people are like, I can't believe this level of gore exists in my anime to begin with, as opposed to
Well,
I can't believe that they just use the score as like a throwaway and just like they were lazy.
I mean, it's I haven't seen anything about gore, but I've seen things about obviously the goblin children and also like the rape. But I
the
think I
goblin
think you're right.
the goblin
children.
children thing is laughable. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous. So people were actually upset in the scene where Goblin Slayer walks into the room where there's several like small children goblin, and they look at it. They look up at him. They're scared, and then he beats them to death with a club. And
Hmm.
people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he did that. That's such great morality, you know." And
Well,
then
no, even
people,
more than that, people are like, "Oh, it's trash now because they included they went past this level of like
yeah,
some
like,
I
oh,
don't think people said it was bad.
they stooped so low or some shit. Like they say this shit, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe he did that. Like what a bad guy, you know. Uh, we literally like 2 minutes ago saw a gang of adult goblins rape a woman to death.
yeah."
So what is the issue to killing the goblins when they are not adults?
I think it's further. Well, I think that gets back into like sort of the racial thing because I feel like people are reading into that. It's like you obviously wouldn't do that in real life if it was a race thing, but we've seen what the goblins do. We know that they're fucking literal monsters.
They're
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 mindless monsters.
they're
Like they're
just monsters. They don't do anything. They rape and
What
they
if
kill.
they are good goblins?
Yeah, what if there are good goblins? Well, it's a fantasy series, so it's possible. That's why it's fantasy. Um, if you have a literal, I mean, think about it this way: what, like, if they're an actual, if it's not even like a humanoid, you wouldn't think twice about that. But the fact that it has humanoid features, people are upset about.
Yeah.
And it's like if this was if the fucking monsters were like literal like goo creatures, no one would care.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if they were like the Skaven from uh Warhammer, right?
See, I think that's still a little bit too humanoid because you could make a child mouse with teary eyes
I mean,
shaking.
you could, but like
I would say go even further. Like
any
imagine it
any
was a fucking
Warhammer fan though is like you see a scene of like say uh like any faction just like burning a bunch of baby Skaven to death. Like no Warhammer fan is gonna be like, oh, those poor babies. Like they're a menace. They literally destroy the world whenever they can. Like there's no room for them to live. So what is the moral quandary there?
Yeah.
There is none.
yeah. I mean,
They're
it's
monsters.
I think basically like in general about just like as far as real world shit goes too. Just think about a parasite, an actual parasite. It's out to let itself, but doesn't benefit any other creature. It's just going to kill indiscriminate, essentially, and let itself survive. The idea that killing the baby goblins after we saw what they were literally absolutely going to grow up to become is stupid.
I,
They're
I
not
guess.
humans. They're not people. Fucking green monsters.
Hmm. I think it's unfortunate because again, whether they reacted to it positively or whether they reacted to it negatively, the focus on the gore and the sexual violence was not on the fact that it was being used in a relatively unproductive manner. That also shifted away after the plot became extended. Right? It was after the plot becomes extended. It really doesn't become that focus on the murder and the rape all day. Right? Um, so that's sort of the major criticism I think we all had about the series, where it's like it just kind of slaps it in and then it just goes somewhere else, right? And it doesn't
Yeah, it's like,
really do
isn't this
something productive.
crazy? We'll be
Yeah,
back later with some burned bodies or something.
yeah,
Stay
exactly,
tuned.
exactly.
It's like,
Yeah, it's not very productive with what it does, but I think in the general sort of anime community, the focus shifted to how much of it there was, or the specific, like extreme shock value of it, which is like extreme, but that's not really relevant to necessarily the quality of this series specifically, right? So it's like,
yeah, the rape part like that, I can see why you'd be shocked by. The
Yeah,
idea that the party gets killed in general in
Well,
the beginning was a fucking stupid thing to get shocked by because it's basic D&D fantasy. These people are
hmm
novices and they're also introduced in such a fast-paced manner that you're like, well, you should assume at this point that these people are expendable.
I mean,
yeah,
to be fair to the source material, the beginning of Goblin Slayer, like the manga, and I'm sure the light novel as well, all those party members, they get a lot of backstory. They get quite a bit of backstory. Enough backstory to make you, like, if you went in blind, you'd think, these are the characters, right?
yeah.
Um, but they're not, right? The way the anime is set up, it's like, these people are fodder. They're gonna fucking die. Um, and they do die, and I'm not really gonna comment on like the, I guess the quality of like the idea of killing off the initial party because
hmm
it's largely irrelevant, right? The entire
Yeah.
idea of doing that is literally just to subvert expectations, um,
hmm
which is kind of ineffective when you literally name your series Goblin Slayer, and like
And no one's a Goblin
and
Slayer?
yeah, nobody in the party is a goblin slayer. They're all novices. There's not really an expectation there to be subverted,
hmm
unless you do like what the manga did, where you give all those characters a bunch of
Right.
backstory. So like, one of them, at least one of them's gonna die, but like, you don't know which one. You don't know how many of them, but it ends up all of them dying.
Yeah.
Um, but the the purpose of uh the rape, right? Um the I guess the importance of it, I
The
suppose.
value.
Yeah, the value. Uh it's not really there. Um
Yeah.
there's
It's very insane.
nothing
Yeah.
there's no real reason for it to happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Other than the shock value.
Other than
and
shock, yeah.
yeah, I talked about this with Dark a couple days ago, I think. Um, and Dark made the comparison of Marduk Scramble, which is
hmm
another series that like it starts with rape, right? Like it's like one of the first things you see. Um, and that has a purpose, right? It sets the main character up for a reason to go after the antagonist, a reason to become what she is in the story, and it essentially sets up the story, right? It sets up the initial driving goal of like why she goes on, her like adventure essentially. Um, and then I uh had the example of obviously the obvious comparison of Berserk, right? Which is another series that used rape in an extremely different manner. Um, and it didn't start with it. It did it like 10, what is it, 15 volumes in. Um,
Yeah.
and it completely shifted the entire tone of the series. It completely shifted the dynamic of not only the main character, but the side characters, pretty much the entire cast, the entire tone of the series. Like it marks it's a like pillar in the story of entire events shifting.
Right. Right. Right.
It's a very important event in the plot, in the story, in the drive of every character involved. And in Goblin Slayer, it's nothing, right?
Right. Right. It's just
Even
yeah,
even
scalable
to
goblins.
even to the character that witnesses it, it doesn't set up anything. It doesn't
Right.
it doesn't give her a drive to do anything. It doesn't.
It's not like a continual burning motivation. She's just kind of quote unquote inspired by the goblins there.
Yeah, the rape is entirely pointless. The only thing that drives the priestess is the Goblin Slayer himself.
Right.
The rape has no like driving factor on the priestess's character,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
her
No.
mental
They're
state.
very
It
yeah, very
it
true.
does nothing to her.
She's like smiling at the end
So
of the episode.
so why is it there? why did the
Right,
author
right.
include it? To
Mhm.
make this series seem like it's more mature than it really is. Seem like it's
More adult.
darker than it really is.
So adult.
It's uneventful, it's worthless, and there's
Mhm.
no need for it to be there.
Yeah, very, very true.
And I mean, that's just the core of like my entire issue with the series, with the series fan base, with the entire reaction around the event itself. Uh, I think it's the entire like start of the series is honestly a joke when it's trying to
Right.
set itself up to be this dark gray morality fantasy series when it's
Yeah,
nothing, it's anything but.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty black and white. Like what's going on.
It's
It just has grim visuals and grim ideas
yeah.
about it. It doesn't really, make you question it. Like the idea that you would be questioning, like, is it really okay to kill the goblin by the end of it is fucking absurd. No,
Yeah,
pretty all right to kill a goblin. In fact, we definitely should kill the goblin.
yeah.
But
It's very unfortunate that it ended up this way, but it is what it is, and so I think in the future again, it's very important. I think for the community as a whole to really kind of look forward to what is this shock value doing for the story. And again, this has nothing to do whether it's a lot of shock value, like oh man, she's like this innocent girl is just randomly killing stuff all over the place, or whether it's super small. It doesn't have anything to do with the level. It just has to be uh, initially solidly linked to the productivity of the story. And it didn't do that at Goblin Slayer, and it's very unfortunate. So that is again what it is. I think we all are overall pretty down on Goblin Slayer. I don't think any of us will really tell you to like watch it or anything like that. But if you do want to find out what the hullabaloo is all about, please again do check it out. Goblin
well,
Slayer, done by White Fox. Do you guys have any
hey,
last words?
I mean, I was gonna. You said no one would tell you to check it out. I think if anyone was gonna tell you to check it out, if there's anyone who's a fan of the series and tells you who's an actual fan and tells you to check out there's something with them because the itself looks atrocious. Uh, just has terrible audiovisual. Don't
Yeah,
like the
I
way
don't.
any of it looks.
I mean, I was gonna comment on that too. White Fox's adaptation is uh, it's bad. It's not it's not good. Um,
Not good.
so they made this strange decision to animate like all of Goblin Slayer's armor in CG. I'm not sure why they decided to do this. I don't know if they were going for some artistic choice of like, making Goblin Slayer like stand out, like make him different amongst the cast, amongst the world.
Mhm.
But it's not good CG for sure. Um, Especially when you have him right beside 2D characters,
Yeah.
it doesn't look good. The the lighting on the model is bad. Uh, the animations are stiff, and it just doesn't look very good. And then the 2D animation, in my opinion, this looks like a 2010 series. Like, it doesn't look very good. Um, and it's just like, it's so weird because, like, one of the biggest praises of Goblin Slayer's manga is its fantastic art. It has really nice art. It's quite detailed. It's very sharp, and like it always looks pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like it never looks good. Like
Yeah.
doesn't look good. Like in terms of like backdrops, it's very bland. Its palette is very bland. its lines are very messy. Its coloring is very bland. Like it's just, it doesn't. It's not a good adaptation. So
Yeah.
like, if you are interested in Goblin Slayer, and I'm not gonna dissuade anybody from reading Goblin Slayer because I think as much shit as I give Goblin Slayer, it has its merits. Like I said earlier, it's a very simple world. It's very simple.
It
Uh,
appeals to a certain niche. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very simple main character. It's got a very simple cast, and it's a very simple idea of a man killing goblins in bloody, brutal fashions. Like, if you want your fantasy action manga, uh, there's certainly worse things you could go for than Goblin Slayer, right?
Yeah.
But as for the anime, I would say avoid it like the fucking plague. It looks
Yeah.
like shit.
For sure. But yeah, very, very unfortunate. Again, if you do want to, if it appeals, if that sort of niche sort of appeals to you, um, or you want to check out the Hullabaloo, again, try it out. But don't say we didn't warn you. And with that, we are moving on to our news segment. I don't think we'll have too much um, going on this time around. A lot of it's like been just like animes becoming official and stuff like that. So we'll go on through pretty quickly. So again, not too much going on here. First piece of news: a couple of interesting, new creations by companies along the road, and again, Anime News Network is taking forever to fucking load.
Yeah, it is. What the hell? Did
Yeah,
Anime News Network just fucking crash?
it's apparently taking super long to load these days. I don't know why though. So
Because there's so much.
It's because anime is so big now, dude.
It's mainstream.
so the first piece of news is that so Cyber Agent. So Cyber Agent is a sort of, I want to say, yeah, it's like a general like media company, so Cyber Agent, general media company in Japan. Um, so
I got it up. You want me to read this?
yeah, well, yeah, okay, loaded. So Cyber Agent, the parent company of game developer Cygames and streaming service company Abema TV, announced on Wednesday that it has founded the CA Animation label on the same day. The new label will focus on producing original anime as well as producing possible game adaptations of those original anime projects. It will coordinate with Abema TV for its original anime content. So I guess CA Animation decides, well, again, we're doing is kind of letting Cygames and Abema TV throw all this money at specific studios, right? Like outside studios. We might as well take it in house, right? Is That's essentially what they want to do, right?
We're finally getting the Shadowverse anime, dude.
We always wanted, right?
Hell yeah.
Um, so they brought in some people to be the executive producers and stuff like that, or the sort of producer like people. Um, Both Abema TV as well as Cygames is pretty big, and they've sponsored or helped produce a couple of anime already. So we'll see how it works when CA takes it in house. It'll be pretty interesting. It'll be sort of similar to maybe a couple of other people are doing. Well, not really. It's like the issue is like these people are like originally much more sort of. I guess they were strongly media, right? Like Cygames is big, but they're not like big compared to like Abema TV and like the other companies under Cyber Agent. So we'll see kind of how this goes, but definitely pretty interesting.
Cygames is pretty big now, though. They're getting
Yeah,
up
yeah,
there.
no, no, Cygames is big, but it's like apparently like if you read their financial reports, it's like Abema TV and like their stuff that's like doing most of the heavy lifting in terms of like the profits and like the money flow.
Yeah.
And that's why I said. So yeah, that'll be pretty interesting once they take it in house. Next piece of news. Sunrise establishes its own label for music. So the official Twitter account for Sunrise subsidiary Sunrise Music Publishing announced on September 28th that Sunrise has established its own music label named Sunrise Music Label. The new label aims to produce music alongside anime productions to expand the company's music publishing business. So, just adding stuff to, again, trying out a new sort of a new undertaking, taking some stuff in house, etc., etc., etc. So a lot of companies are trying to kind of go horizontal in this industry, right? So as to not fall sink under, right? I guess that's like a new trend that's going to be going on. Sort of trying to go as horizontal as possible, or yeah, no, it's vertical integration, right? Vertical integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
I apologize, but yeah, they're trying to do a lot of vertical integration kind of stuff going on. So
It's weird though.
but we'll see how that sort of trend works. I think it's like they also have to be pretty big enough to manage all like because like the anime studios are already taking pretty heavy losses and stuff, so they'll have to manage all that shit. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works.
Sunrise too. They don't do all that much stuff, so it's like
I mean, they're
gotta
also
pick and
not like
choose.
headed by themselves under like a huge company like how Production IG is, right?
Yeah.
So that's big. Next piece of news. The Harvey Awards, which honors outstanding work in comics and sequential art, awarded Nagatakabe's My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness manga with Best Manga Award at the New York Comic Con on Friday. So this one, I believe, okay. So the manga competed against My Brother's Husband. So that was, I believe, the gay couple series. My Boku no Hero Academia or My Hero Academia, Tokyo Ghoul, and Your Name.
This
Kimi
is
no
a
Na wa, the manga
Western
adaptation.
award, right?
Yeah. This is the first year that the Harvey Awards included the Best Manga category. They competed against some weird shit, but I guess this one out. So that was. It's kind of weird, I guess, because it's like three of them are just like manga adaptations of, or no, or sorry, I guess Tokyo Ghoul is a manga original, but it's like Your Name, like Kimi no Na, like a manga adaptation of a movie, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Stuff like that competed against two LGBT series, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Sounds
weird.
like a Western award.
On other pieces of news, we have some bankruptcies. Very unfortunate. First off, this is Anime Studio IMS.
Oh,
Anime Studio
no.
Production IMS files for bankruptcy. So this is a pretty like significant. Like they're not like a huge studio, but it's like they've done some series. So Credit Research Tokyo company Tokyo Shoko Research, or TSR, reported on Thursday that Anime Studio Production IMS filed for bankruptcy in a Tokyo District Court on September 21st, and the studio received approval to start the bankruptcy proceedings on October 3rd. Tokyo lawyer Yusuke Date is handling the bankruptcy for the studio. The studio has about 250 million yen, or 2.3 million US dollars in debt. So that's fucking huge.
Wow. That's not good.
Blah, 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 not made a public statement. The company's official website is no longer online, and blah, 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 stuff happened. So later in December, so this was before all this filing occurred, animator Miyazaki Teru posted but deleted a complaint on Twitter that an anime studio he implied was Production IMS was not its animators. So this is pretty bad, very unfortunate. But it's kind of interesting because it was, I guess, like during this time when they were making complaints and they were really going down, it was actually producing Takunomi, right?
Yes.
So that's very interesting. Again, very, very unfortunate that Production IMS had to go down under, but it is what it is. Better that the company kind of has to shut down and kind of has to fix itself and not paying its animators at all, right? But at least Takunomi turned out pretty decently. So second is the October 2nd bankruptcy. The October 3rd issue of the National Printing Bureau's Kanto publication revealed that the Japanese adult game company Hikosoft filed for bankruptcy on September 21st. So these are the people behind the Sakura Sakura and the Yotsunoha games that they are trying to release Sakura Sakura again pretty soon, in like 4 days or something like that. But unfortunately, they did file bankruptcy, but apparently they said that the localization of Hikosoft Sakura Sakura and Yosunoha games will not be affected by filing, and adding quote unquote everything on our end will continue as planned, which is kind of weird. But I guess that's what it is. I don't know
Maybe
how
they like already paid them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know
probably.
how the money flow works out after that, but I guess
I mean,
whatever.
the localization license has already been paid,
Yeah, so they don't
so
care. They don't care. Yeah.
The thing is too is are any of the strategic bankruptcy because you can
What?
file.
you're cutting
Isn't
out.
there said isn't there such thing as like a strategic bankruptcy where like you file for bankruptcy, not actually
Yeah,
completely out of money?
but it's like you
I mean, IMS like if
still
they don't have
the
obviously,
the issue
but
is it's like there is something like I haven't heard
it's like
something like that,
obviously they're not doing good, but
but it's like you don't. It's like that's like choosing between like whether you want a train or a car to hit you, right? It's like at that
yeah,
point, right? It's like so they probably didn't want to do that anyway. So
no, yeah,
or,
like it's not great.
yeah,
It's like maybe they're through filing for bankruptcy, they're still able to
but they're not just like completely
somehow,
collapsed yet.
yeah,
Yeah,
rebound.
yeah. Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. Um, and we have some interesting news. Again, we don't usually announce anime projects getting announced, except for like the funny ones and stuff like that. But on the heels of Index 3,
I
yes?
no,
Did you want to
no,
say
go
something?
on.
Did you want to say
Fucking hate
something,
you.
Carl?
Why'd you have to?
But so something that these Index fans have also been wanting for quite a while have come out, and that is uh, a certain scientific railgun, or Toara Kakaku no Railgun, is getting a third anime season, and I believe it has been announced for like what is it, spring 2019 or something like that, or sometime in 2019. And the
No, because the second one you're about to name, I think spring or 2018.
yeah, and then uh, the another thing that's being announced is a certain scientific accelerator. So people who have been who are acquainted with the manga spin-offs and like the other related media spin-offs of Index will know this. But there was also an accelerator manga that came out, or a manga spin-off that came out, and that also apparently has a TV project that's been announced for 2019. So I was making jokes about with Dark about how the accelerator manga would get an anime before Railgun did, and it almost came true.
I
So
mean, it did, right?
yeah, the
Like
announcement was like Sunday day
I'm
before.
pretty sure the accelerator anime coming out before Railgun 3.
It is. I don't.
I think
Well,
so.
this was just like announced. Well,
Because
I thought.
because didn't they say, oh, was that the one that was only announced? The way I interpreted it was Railgun only has the quote unquote coming soon date, whereas uh, Accelerator has a straight up
Oh no,
like
you're right. You're right.
fall or
It's, yeah,
spring 20.
you're right. You're right. I guess
Yeah.
the accelerator anime is the one that's getting a 2019 date. For pretty sure, quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
And
certain that in the past they also said so. My words are not ending,
yeah,
but probably mentioned something about killing myself if the Accelerator anime came out before Railgun 3.
and then
So I'm gonna have to run that back.
can I can I do a redo?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a moment.
But
Mulligan
yeah,
on that.
everybody's favorite accelerator manga is getting an anime in 2019, so look forward to that. Jesus. So with that, we are done with the non-people news and on to the actual people news. Just again, pretty short. Um, First off, so as we all know, Calafina, the band, the famous band that did a whole bunch of different like anime stuff, anime OPs and stuff like that. They disbanded pretty recently, following a pretty weird fallout and stuff like that. And you know, it didn't fall out very well. But one of the members from it, Wakana Otaki, uh, announced during her solo concert on Wednesday that she will make the official debut of her solo singing career next year. First single Tokyo Koeru Yoru ni, or In the Night Beyond Time. Shusui is composing the song while Wakana herself is writing the lyrics, etc., etc., etc. So she was doing this as part of her solo concert tour. Again, good luck to her. Hope she goes past the fallout, gets past the Calafino fallout pretty well. But yeah, so um, people after Kajiura's departure from Calafina, kind of scrambling for the hills, but seems to be working out for the major members. Secondly, uh, Tokyo Actors Consumers Cooperative Society reported on Saturday that voice actor Takada Nobuo passed away at the age of 83. So he passed away on October 17th. He had various roles such as Society X and Gatchaman, Dio and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OV, Anime Sanjushi, Richelieu series. So he also received a Merit Award at the 4th Annual Seiyu Awards in 2010. So please wish condolences to his friends and family. And with that, we are done with the news, and we are moving on to our shoutouts and callouts.
Wow, you're not gonna cover Crunchyroll and Funimation?
They split up,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. So I don't actually have the specific news for this, but I believe it is that. Do you want to cover it here or what?
I have the article up. So,
Yeah, go for it.
Crunchyroll and Funimation Entertainment announced on Thursday that their partnership to share content will end on Friday, November 9th.
Mm-hmm.
The streaming bundle service VRV, owned by Crunchyroll parent company Elation, also announced that it will no longer have a Funimation Now streaming service as part of VRV premium subscription or
Mm-hmm.
as an individual channel subscription as of November 9th. Instead, the bundle will add the High Dive streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
According to a memo to Funimation staff from Funimation's president and CEO Jen Fukunaga, Funimation Now subscribers will gain access to the subtitled versions of several hundred titles on November 9th, but will lose a handful of dubbed titles. Crunchyroll also noted that a number of titles will leave both services and that the companies will update later on which titles will be impacted.
And according
I really hope they lose Hero Academia, but probably won't.
According to an October 18th internal memo obtained by October 18th internal memo, Fukunaga also stated that Sony is making additional investments in Funimation to make it quote unquote a global sub and dub anime brand.
Yeah. So basically, what Funimation has said they're trying to do is,
they just want a piece of that pie. That Crunchyroll is taking way too much.
They're pretty much low-key saying they want to be bigger than Crunchyroll, and that if they're partnered with Crunchyroll, they can't do that, and so they're going to use the fact that they're owned by Sony, and that they have Sony's resources to try to be bigger than Crunchyroll.
Like essentially, they're saying it's like, well, Crunchyroll, it's like, in a sense, they're sort of looking down on Crunchyroll because it's like, they're like, well, why is this like random fucking Western company getting able to kind of just run over and just throw money at people, right? It's like because they're taking so much of an obvious like media presence monopoly on these things. It's like, so they're like, well, if they're do this, then we should be able to invest a little bit more and just kind of fight at least toe to toe or take over, right? Yeah. So that's sort of what they're aiming to do.
I pray to God they can.
Yeah. I just think that in general, it's just like unless Sony like completely half-asses this, which obviously would be bad, just period. I think this is just perfect almost. Like it's exactly what the community needed. It's like they need competition. Crunchyroll absolutely cannot be allowed. Crunchyroll absolutely cannot be allowed to just get away with murder and just just take like monopoly and whatever and just be the biggest fish in the pond. But the issue has always been that the other platforms just didn't have enough shit, right? They just didn't have enough manpower. They didn't have enough eyeballs on them. They didn't have enough money. They didn't have anything, right? So it's like the new company started, it would be tiny compared to Crunchyroll, right? But now that Sony is getting into it, oh shit, right? So,
well, Funimation also knows how Crunchyroll operates now that they've been partnered. Right?
I mean, both of them know pretty well how the other operates. So it's like whatever. But I think this is definitely a very, very welcome, like refreshing shot. There needs to be competition. Like this can't go on. It's not healthy, but I'm glad it happened. Did you want to talk for a hot second about how people were reacting to it? I think Twitter? You wanted to. So
Yeah,
I think you wanted to, so I'm
yeah.
giving you the chance right
So people on Twitter when Funimation announced this, they said on Twitter, we're parting ways with Crunchyroll. It's been good, but later. Um, and
It's
people,
been good, but High Guardian Spice's release date keeps getting closer and closer.
yeah, can't deal with that right now. But yeah, people have been reacting uh, on an almost doomsday level. Um, like, oh my god, simul dubs are over now, and it's like, who cares?
Oh my god.
Like, I don't know. I didn't really. I found the reaction to people being like, "Oh my God, you're ending your partnership with Crunchyroll. You're making a big mistake. I'm a I'm an anime watcher, business major, and I know that a partnership with Crunchyroll is probably the greatest thing of all time. You know, as an anime viewer, you
How can
know,
you possibly survive without Crunchyroll?
yeah, a company wanting to grow bigger and have healthy competition on the market. Like, what are you, stupid? You're not giving the consumers the ability to watch everything in one place on one subscription.
Yeah, I know.
You're an idiot.
Yeah, it's so like it's like people on Twitter are actively like fighting against this idea of like
Competition in a market. Like,
yeah. The best part about it is it's like if like Crunchyroll was like good service that like covered everything, like a really good service that just covered everything, then it's like maybe there would be an argument, right? Because it's like one of those rare cases where it's like the service is also good and it's like universal, so it's like you don't have to go else. But that's not the case, right? It's like, and not only that, half the time people just kind of just Google stuff, right? It's like they just Google the anime they want to watch and then they just watch it, right? So it's not like people are really missing out on having Crunchyroll lose license.
yeah. I mean,
Crunchyroll already doesn't have Crunchyroll even with Funimation already doesn't have everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're
yeah.
missing a ton of shit.
Yeah,
They miss out on the stuff that Netflix grabs. They miss out on the stuff that what Amazon, the few stuff Amazon Prime grabs. Um, you know, and like uh even Netflix, big fucking company, right? They grab the licenses, but they're not moving in on the anime market, right? Like they're just like, here's a few uh token series and like we're good, right? We've got our anime catalog for the next like year, right? Um, so I think a company like Funimation, which is focused on anime, like it's the only real competition that Crunchyroll can have, and you know I don't know, people are just like dumb, like people are just
moral of today's
fucking so dumb. Like just the idea. Like if people were like, "Oh yeah, Netflix, the literally the only streaming service in the entire world, fine with me. That's a-okay with me. I only got to pay one subscription fee.
I
That's
can't
fine.
believe Hulu exists.
Like
I can't,
Monopoly, that's fine. That's great.
yeah,
I only
yeah.
got to pay one subscription fee, so it's good for me, the consumer. That's great for me. Like people are just
Well, it's also like I only have to pay one subscription fee that's only $15
Why
because
do
there's other
guys?
subscriptions
Guys,
that are at that price or lower. So if there's only one, then I hope you like paying $100 for Netflix a
yeah,
year.
like people
guys,
don't
why do
realize.
antitrust laws exist? Like, come on, makes no sense. All
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, look at what's happening on Amazon. Amazon Prime prices keep going up.
Yeah,
yeah, because like who's gonna
Where else
stop
are you
it?
gonna go? Who else is gonna give you 2-day shipping for a fee of even? I think at this point it's like $120
yeah, exactly.
a year. It's like who's gonna give you 2-day shipping on any package you order for that price?
Not
No one.
many people.
But yeah, very, very. It's just I don't know. It's very. It's like it kind of shows how the anime community a lot of time tends to like work against their own interests, which is very interesting, but also very saddening at the same time. But
People are not smart.
yeah, not
Yeah,
very smart.
I mean, I'm serious when I mention the High Guardian Spice situation. really do think that that's going to be an eye opener for a lot of.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
because I think Anime Police.
the announcement alone was an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think the release of the series is a disaster.
Yeah.
I think I was hoping it would have happened with Anime Police, but the problem with that is that it's a live action done both Freddy 1 featuring Pro Zed, wherever you say his name. So everyone was expecting shitty meme stuff, so kind of ate it up.
Yeah.
But now that there's no real memes attached, High Guardian Spice, this is our chance now.
Yeah. But yeah, very very unfortunate, or very unfortunate that the community is doing this. But whatever, we'll have the results out of this, and hopefully it won't be people won't just like randomly turn their backs on. It. So we'll see how it goes. And with that, we are done with the news. We want to move on to our last segment, our shoutouts and callouts. Again, everybody here gets one shout out and one call out. A shout out is something that you want to praise, 10 out of 10. Talk about all day that one thing that you like, and it could be any person, place, or thing. And call out is the exact opposite. Any one thing that you want to flame, insult, talk down about, and it could be any one person, place, or thing. So I guess I'll start. Um, I want to start with my call out before I actually forget it, and my call out is something I actually talked about with Dark a couple of days ago. He might actually know what it is before I talk about it. It's about my new pet peeve, and it's about. So it's like, I mean, I've had this before. Like I've had people do this to me before, but I've only like really started to get annoyed by it recently. When people like when they're talking to me and like I'm explaining something, right? Or I'm like critiquing something, and I'm like I go beyond saying. I usually want to go beyond. We all do, right? That's why we're on this podcast in the first place. We want to go beyond just being, oh, it just sucks. If possible, we do, and if it's necessary, we do want to explain it, give evidence for it, give a solid sort of analysis of it, and then just sort of critique it on that level, right? So I come out with that, and I put a little bit of attention to analyzing it, and just explaining it at whatever level the audience is. And then afterwards, the person is like, "Are you sure you're talking about that series?" And it's just like, fucking pisses me the hell off, because when they say those lines, they're not actually talking about, like, they're not actually confused about what series I'm talking about. They know that I'm talking about this series. What they're saying is, I don't agree with you, but you've listed all these things that I can't really refute because they're part of the series. So I'm just gonna say some stupid fucking shit to try and throw you off, to try to confuse your mind for a second, to like try and get you. So that really pisses me off, because it's like they're not really talking about the series. They're just like, "Are you sure you haven't checked out the manga version or the movie version instead? That totally has a different plot." It's like, no, just look, just it's like, or they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you've read ahead a little bit, or like, are you sure you've read volume 4.5 of the side story of this one that it totally explains everything?" It's like, come on, man. Just can we stop playing these games?
Are you sure you're on the same plane of reality that I'm on?
Yeah, exactly. So stupid. So that was my call out, and my shout out is definitely to actually I don't even want to. I guess I want to put it to Zombieland Saga this time. I really do like, or not even Zombieland Saga. Fuck that. I want to give the shout out to Miano.
Damn. Oh, hello?
What?
What?
What happened?
Did he die?
I think.
He's dead. What's your
Alright.
what's your shout out and call out?
I think my shout. Oh man!
You see me?
What the holy
Oh.
shit!
I have
You
a
guys hear me?
place fire.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So
My
toast.
toast.
Thanks for playing me for a bit. But Miyanomaru just again, unless something big comes out at the end of the year or some big combination, I think he's probably going to be my award for best like actor voice actor combination, or like maybe even just like best actor for this series for this like year in general, just because he just put like he just took that character and put him like on a level above. It was very like I don't know. It's I still argue that it is very like there are other people that could have done that character, but not taken to like 110%. Like it's I think it's very well done. So that's my shout out. Dark. Do you want to do shout outs and call outs?
Uh, yeah, my shout out's gonna be to, as much as I wanted to meet the railgun and accelerator thing, shout out to some of the recent anime announcements.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fine. I'm more
Are you
happy,
shouting out the
obviously.
accelerator announcement too?
No, not really. I mean, like in general, sure, I'll take it, I guess. It's not what I wanted first, but I guess having it is terrible. Um, but it's also like shout out to User Camp getting both, I think, a movie and a season.
It's getting like everything. Getting like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then also, I think Gochusa is also I know it's getting season 3, but I think it might also be getting another movie. Rather,
Yeah, I have to see about that. That and
I know
like
it's getting season 3.
a whole bunch of stuff is a whole bunch of like more like cuter like slice of life stuff is getting a lot of like stuff like Chunibyo is getting some weird screenings. Um, is isn't Nonambura getting something pretty soon? If I remember correctly.
A
But yeah,
movie.
yeah, a movie.
I don't know if it's out yet.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of stuff is getting some extensions that are much appreciated.
Yeah. And then my call out is going to be to people who call other people in MMOs elitist jerks for playing the game. I was called an elitist jerk quite recently for thinking apparently that a 1 to 3% DPS loss on 3 different pieces of gear. So if we do quick math, and this is lowballing, that's a 3 to 9%. It's probably more like 5 to 15%.
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, I'm apparently an elitist jerk. That's ridiculous that you would get locked into certain gear traits. And not only that, this is specifically for World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
There are specs in World of Warcraft, so if I'm a mage, I have Frost Mage, Arcane, Fire Mage. The only problem is that Frost Mage, for example, Fire Mage is useless, but Frost Mage is really good for AoE, and Arcane Mage is really good for single target. So for certain fights, I want to be one or the other.
Yeah.
If 3 pieces of my gear, the best traits on them are only for Arcane Mage, Blizzard, for some reason, multiple systems that lock you into that choice. You can change it, but it gets more and more expensive. So it's not feasible to change it, for each encounter that you would use one or the other, because it doubles in price every single time and then halves every 3 days or something.
Mm-hmm.
So your only choice, so you have 2 choices. You either take the 1%, or rather, not even the 1%. You're going to be taking at minimum 3% DPS loss, or you're getting a second set of gear. I already don't even have a full set of gear for my main spec, and I've been raiding every week since the expansion came out and the raid came out.
Yeah, I think it's
So yeah, I've been called an elitist jerk multiple times now for literally playing 5 hours a week. That apparently makes me an elitist jerk.
some people
For spending 2.5 hours on a Tuesday night and 2.5 hours on a Thursday.
Yeah, well, some people just want to take it easy. All right, don't be such a tryhard.
That's not a video game then. Honestly, like, you have to do things, get loot. Imagine that.
What's the point if you're not trying?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like what? Like why even play the game then? Go watch TV. What
Dude,
the
you're
fuck?
being such a tryhard. But yeah, yeah, you're very unfortunate.
No, honestly, worse than tryhard is being called an elite.
No, yeah, sure.
Because I'm
That
not.
was
I'm
your
not. I'm not even. Listen, I hate the idea for difficulties and WoW because it causes a massive amount of problems, and Blizzard won't admit it. Like every other expansion, they're like, "Oh, we have to keep doing a stat squish," and everyone's sitting there like twiddling their thumbs, like, guys, maybe the stat squish is because you have four different difficulties and you have to have four gear skews.
or
And then Blizzard's like, just dead silent if you speak out against the other difficulty. The only
yeah,
reason is because you don't want people to have what you get. It's like, no, just have two difficulties. One's
yeah,
very, one's, you know, easy enough to where if you just play the game, and then the second one, you have to try a little bit
yeah,
very, you know, I wouldn't mind if I wouldn't mind if overall WoW only had two difficulties, both of them being current normal difficulty and the current heroic difficulty, both of which I've already like I
yeah,
genuinely wouldn't mind if that was the case.
yeah.
But I'm gonna leave.
Very unfortunate. Uh, sorry, you did your shout out right already. So
Yep.
we'll go on to Nier. Shout outs and call outs, please.
um, shit, I don't know, man. College to college to this month, dude. There's too many games, man. Like, fuck, dude.
Just don't play them.
What?
Just smother your body with them, just like all over. Just
What
rub it
the
all over.
fucking Red Dead 2 is in like a week, right? That's a 2026,
Yes,
right? Something like
I think so.
that. Fucking Soul Calibur 6 just came out. Residents of Fate HD just came out. The Missing, like, just came out a couple weeks ago. Uh, what else was there? There was some other shit. Like, why? Why do you have to have so many games in 1 month?
Why are there so many games?
What the hell, dude? Just like, can you
Stop.
just like delay Red
Stop.
Dead for like 2 months?
uh,
That'd be fine, you know? But nah, it's just games are too expensive, man.
yeah. And your call out.
That was my call out, dude.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was shout. Excuse me, your shout out.
I'm not gonna shout out that I can't afford games, man.
No, I thought you were gonna shout out that there were so many games.
I'm not
Like,
about
you had
that
shown.
life, dude. Um, shout outs to fuck, I don't know. Shout outs to
Shout out to Thanos dabbing and Soul Calibur
yeah,
6.
shout outs to Thanos dabbing and any form of media ever. No, but really.
That's what we needed. That's what this world needed.
Uh,
Clearly.
I've been watching a lot of movies lately, um, because I've been really bored, and so I've kind of just been binge watching movies. And because I'm a stupid plebeian idiot, I watch a lot of superhero movies.
Mm.
And I rewatched Kick-Ass yesterday,
No,
and that movie's way better than I remember. Um, I would actually say it's probably one of the best like superhero movies like that's come out like ever. You know,
mm.
that movie's really good. It's got some really nice shots. It's got some great. It's got a great palette. It's got just. I don't know, it's good. It's a good movie. You should watch it. If you haven't watched Kick-Ass, watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch.
It's been a long time since I heard it though. Like I know it, and I think I like started it, but I like, never finished it for some reason. Like I had it on a tab, and then I was like, like I need to go do something else.
Yeah,
But
it's a
it's
good
definitely a long
movie.
time
It's
ago.
a good movie. Just
Yeah.
don't watch Kick-Ass 2 ever, and you're
No.
good.
Yeah. Sequels for superheroes. Never always. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Anyway. Okay. That's good stuff. And again, that was episode 104. We'll be back hopefully with Toast. For next episode, we'll be on the grind again, covering more series as we go along. Definitely with a lot more big titles to cover. Not just we're not just ending with Goblin Slayer or something like that. Definitely more big titles on the way. Stick stick around for that. And if you do like what we do, we have our twitch.tv/4PlayerAnimecast, our Twitch site, where we stream all our recordings every other Saturday starting from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese animation media, including anime, manga, light novels, web novels, visual novels, all games, and all other sorts of entertainment. You can check us out here. You can follow us here and all our social media, on our Twitter at 4PPAnimeCast, and our Facebook page at 4PlayerAnimecast, and see our updates for our various events and streams and so whatnot. So, check us out here, follow us here, just like. And with that, we'll see you next time.